You walk into the kitchen with a purpose. You know exactly why you're here. You cross the entire house to do this one specific thing. And now you're standing in the middle of the room, staring at the counter, and it's gone. Completely gone. Not fuzzy, not on the tip of your tongue, just erased like it was never there at all. You open the fridge, hoping the cold air shakes something loose. Nothing. You look down at your own hands like they might remember for you. And then, a little defeated, you walk back the way you came. And the moment you step into the room you started in, it snaps back into place. The laundry. You got up to move the laundry. It was sitting there in your head the whole time. If this happens to you, you probably blame yourself. You think you're tired or distracted or getting older, or that your memory is quietly starting to fail. But it isn't any of those things. What you just experienced has a name. Scientists have recreated it in a lab over and over and traced it back to something your brain is doing on purpose. It's called the doorway effect. And once you understand it, you'll realize the problem was never your memory. The problem was the door. Let's start with the experiment that pinned this down. In 2011, a psychologist named Gabriel Radvansky and his team at the University of Notre Dame set out to test something very specific. Not whether people forget, everyone forgets, but whether the simple act of walking through a doorway could trigger forgetting all on its own. To do it, they built a world they could completely control. They put people in front of a screen. In a virtual environment, they could move through using buttons, like a simple video game. This virtual space was made up of 55 rooms, some large, some small, connected by doorways. On tables throughout these rooms sat various objects. The participants' job was to pick up an object from one table, carry it to another table somewhere else, and set it down. But here was the clever part. The moment you picked an object up, it vanished from view, tucked invisibly into your virtual hands. You couldn't see what you were carrying, you could only remember it. And every so often, the experiment would stop and quiz you. What are you carrying right now? What did you just put down? The results were remarkably clean. When people walked a certain distance across a single large room and then got quizzed, they answered pretty well. But when people walked the exact same distance, covering the same ground, taking the same amount of time, except that somewhere in the middle they passed through a doorway, their memory got noticeably worse. Same distance, same effort, the only difference was a door. And the door made them forget. Now, a skeptic might say, sure, but that's a video game on a screen. That's not real life. Radvansky's team thought of that. So they ran it again, this time in an actual building, with real rooms and real tables and real objects that people carried in their real hands. And the effect held. Walking through a physical doorway in the real world produced the same forgetting. It wasn't a quirk of the simulation, it was something about the threshold itself. So what is actually happening when you cross that line? To understand it, you have to let go of an assumption you've probably carried your whole life. The idea that your memory works like a video camera, recording your day as one long, continuous, unbroken stream. It doesn't. Your brain doesn't store your life as a single flowing reel. It chops it into pieces, into scenes, into episodes with beginnings and endings. Researchers call these units event models, and the moments where one ends and another begins are called event boundaries. Think of your memory less like a single long video and more like a series of separate clips. Every time your brain decides that one meaningful chunk of experience is over and a new one is starting, it closes the current clip, files it away, and opens a fresh one. This happens constantly, all day, usually without you ever noticing. And here is the key insight. Your brain treats a doorway as one of these boundaries. Crossing a threshold is a signal, a physical cue that says the previous scene is finished. You are somewhere new now. Start a new event. The trouble is, the thought you were carrying, move the laundry, belonged to the old scene. It was part of the episode that took place in the room you just left. So when you cross the doorway and your brain slams the file shut on that episode, the purpose goes in with it. It gets boxed up and put away with everything else from the previous room. You didn't lose the thought. Your brain filed it neatly in a folder you just walked out of. This is why the fix that everyone stumbles onto by accident actually works. When you march back to the room, you started in and the memory suddenly returns. That's not a coincidence. That's you physically returning to the context where the memory was filed. The original room is full of cues, the sight of the laundry basket, the angle of the light, where you were standing, and those cues are stamped onto the same event model as your intention. Step back into that context, and the whole clip reopens. The thought was never deleted. It was just waiting in the room where you left it. Now, this idea goes deeper than doorways, and this is where it gets genuinely strange. A cognitive scientist named Jeffrey Sachs has spent years studying how the brain slices experience into these events, work that led to something called event segmentation theory. And the theory suggests your brain is doing something almost unbelievable in the background at all times. It is constantly predicting the next moment. A fraction of a second before it happens, your brain is quietly guessing what comes next and checking that guess against reality. As long as the predictions keep coming true, you stay inside the same event. The scene flows on, uninterrupted. But when a prediction suddenly fails, when the world changes in a way your brain didn't see coming, that failure is the trigger. That's the moment your brain draws a boundary, closes the old event, and starts a new one. And walking into a different room is a big, sudden change. New walls, new light, new layout, new everything. Your prediction of the world breaks all at once, and your brain does exactly what it's built to do. It cuts the scene. Brain imaging studies have even watched this happen. At these event boundaries, activity spikes in specific regions as the brain updates its model of the present. You are not usually aware of any of it. The doorway is simply one of the few places in daily life where you can actually feel the machinery working, because it takes your train of thought down with it. And then there's the detail that proves it was never really about doors at all. In a later study, researchers found that you don't even need a real doorway to trigger the effect. Simply imagining yourself walking through a doorway was enough to cause the same forgetting. Picture it in your mind, and your memory stumbles in the same way, which tells us something important. The door is not magic. A slab of wood on hinges has no special power over your neurons. What matters is the shift, the mental sense that you have moved from one context into another. The doorway is just the most common, most reliable way we cross that line dozens of times a day. It's a symbol your brain has learned to read. This is the end of one place and the start of another, which raises the obvious question. If this causes so much everyday frustration, all these lost thoughts and blank moments standing in kitchens, why would the brain be built this way? Why sabotage yourself every time you pass through a door? Because it isn't sabotage, it's the price of something you could not live without. Imagine, for a moment, that your brain never segmented anything, that it really did record your entire life as one single, endless, continuous stream, with no boundaries, no chapters, no scenes, every memory blurring seamlessly into the next, a smear of experience with no edges anywhere. You would never be able to find anything. Searching your memory for one specific moment would be like trying to find one specific second in a recording that has no timestamps, no cuts, no structure at all. It would be useless. Segmentation is what makes memory usable. By breaking your life into discrete events with clean boundaries, your brain gives every experience an address. This happened here, in this room, during this episode. That structure is what lets you retrieve a specific memory at all, instead of drowning in one undivided flood of everything that has ever happened to you. The chapters are what make the book readable. So the doorway effect is not a flaw in that system. It's a shadow cast by the system working exactly as designed. Your brain organizes your entire existence into tidy, retrievable episodes. And the boundaries it uses to do that are the same boundaries that occasionally catch a stray thought and file it away a half-second too early. Forgetting why you walked into the room is the small, visible cost of a mind that keeps your whole life sorted and findable. There's something almost reassuring in that. The next time you stride into a room full of purpose and arrive with your mind gone completely blank, you can stop blaming yourself. You are not losing it. Your memory is not failing. Your brain just did the one thing it is exceptionally good at. It closed a chapter. You didn't lose the thought. You just walked through a door, and your brain, ever tidy, filed it away in the room behind you. Turn around, go back. It's still sitting exactly where you left it in the last scene, waiting for you to return and pick it up again.